Welcome and thank you for listening. This is a chapter from my memoir, Maha Unshackled. If you are just joining, I invite you to start from the beginning. All 19 chapters are now live. Now that I was finally legal to work in the United States, I was unstoppable. I signed up with an upscale temp agency in Beverly Hills, the kind that throws you into a different job every week, like you're speed dating corporate America. As disorienting as that experience felt at the time, my graduate studies in organizational behavior enriched it, turning those assignments into a crash course in corporate culture and team dynamics, throwing me in industries ranging from finance, healthcare, and education to entertainment and real estate. I worked with companies such as Saban Capital Group, Canyon Financial, Westfield, among many others. One week, I was corresponding to dinner invitations from Bill Clinton. Another, I was arranging helicopter pickups from rooftop skyscrapers for a billionaire CEO. And another, I would be sitting in box seats at the Staples Center during a Lakers game. That whirlwind gave me a depth of knowledge that later became the foundation of my unique expertise in my work later on. I found another, more affordable apartment in Santa Monica, only 1 block from the Arkstone. I could actually see my old apartment from my balcony, feeling a little bit more stable now that I have a somewhat steady source of income. I was watching a news report saying that people with dogs were happier, lived more active lives, and were generally healthier. Living by the beach and walking past the Palisades Bluff, I saw it everywhere. People with their dogs, running, playing, soaking up the sun. I was always afraid of dogs growing up. I had never been around them and didn't know how to act near them. One day, when I was a kid in Yemen, I went to get a falafel sandwich from the shop across the street from my aunt's mansion, the wife of the sheikh. I was so excited holding 2 rial bills, Yemen currency, she had just given me, running towards the restaurant, ready to order. But as I reached the glass door, a big street dog barked and charged at me. I froze for a second. Then panic took over. I screamed, my face went pale, and I ran into the restaurant, sobbing and shaking. I felt embarrassed. If my mother had seen me, she would have yelled at me for making such a scene. The man behind the deli counter, wearing a white apron, rushed over. He placed a comforting hand on my shoulder. "Are you okay, little girl?" I sniffled and wiped off the snot. "Yeah, I'm fine." He gave me a concerned look. "Are you sure? You look really shook. Let me get you some water." He handed me a small cup, and I drank it quickly, the cool water calming me. I had expected someone to laugh at me or scold me. "What'll you have?" he asked, his voice cheerful, as if nothing had happened. Relieved, I smiled. "A falafel sandwich with extra tahini." He nodded, quickly putting the sandwich together, wrapping it neatly, and handing it to me. I reached out with the 2 bills clutched in my hand, ready to pay. But instead of taking them, he smiled. "I'll tell you what, why don't you keep that and go buy yourself dessert?" I stared at him, stunned. A kindness I hadn't expected. Now, at my American corporate job, sitting in my cubicle, I turned to Sarah, the executive assistant next to me. "I think I'm going to get a dog." I typed in Google search just 2 words, Santa Monica dog. A YouTube video popped up. On the screen, a small, fluffy white dog walking on a leash beside a trainer. He then got a bath, at a pet wash, and other female dogs starting to gather and sniff his butt. There was a text overlay, "The ladies like Blake." My heart skipped a beat. "This is my dog," I screamed. Sarah peeked over. "Oh, really? How exciting." I read the description under the video out loud. "Meet Blake Shelton. Blake was never a pet. We found him on the mean streets of Los Angeles, matted, aggressive, barking, and even biting." Sarah gasped. "Oh no, you don't want that dog. They're literally telling you he bites." I don't care, I said, determined. This is my dog. I can feel it. I know he's the one. Without hesitation, I emailed the contact listed. I'm interested in adopting Blake Shelton. When can I come see him? Minutes later, I got a response. You can come meet Blake this Sunday at our adoption event behind Gold's Gym in Venice. There will be other dogs available too. That Sunday, I arrived at 9 a.m. sharp. The parking lot was filled with other dogs, volunteers, and people looking to adopt. I'm here to see Blake Shelton, I told one of the staff members. Her face lit up. She turned to another volunteer. She's here for Blake Shelton. Oh, how exciting, another person chimed in. And then they brought him out. A small crowd formed as I crouched down to say hello. The second I reached my hand toward him, he snapped, trying to bite me. I yanked my hand back. Don't be scared, one of the staff members said. You have to project dominance. I'm not scared, I said. I grabbed his tiny, furry face in both hands, looked him straight in the eye, and said, It's going to be you and me, buddy. Are you ready? As I let go, he nodded. I gasped. He nodded. Did you guys see that? Everyone burst into laughter. Do you want to see another dog? A staff member asked. But looking at another dog felt like cheating on Blake Shelton. No, I said, he's my dog. I don't want to see anyone else. And that was that. Blake was mine. From that day on, we were inseparable. Wherever I went, he went. If dogs weren't allowed, I simply wasn't going. We traveled together, slept together, hiked together, ate together. We did everything together. Just the two of us, I would sing to him. He felt like part of me, like a limb. I met this music director through Larissa. He was one of her clients at Ted Baker. We all met for drinks at Mackay, and he and I hit it off right away. And I could tell he had a crush on me. At the time, I was in between temp jobs, and he asked me to come be his business manager. I hesitated because my instinct told me not to work for a man who had his eyes on me. The idea of my boss and my paycheck depending on whether I stroked his ego or not sounded like a messy arrangement. Eventually, I agreed because I needed to pay my rent. And as I worked with him, his feelings only grew stronger, which only pushed me further away from him. The more I pushed him away, the harder he tried. He wasn't used to rejection. He works in Hollywood, after all, and is used to girls throwing themselves at him at the time. He would call me in the middle of the night, but I wouldn't pick up. Why didn't you answer? I called you yesterday, he would ask the next day. I was asleep. Those are not working hours, and you are calling my personal cell phone, I would respond, trying to keep boundaries. The next day, he bought me a new iPhone and said, This is your work phone. You should answer it anytime I call. He just kept playing these pathetic power games. I didn't like his lifestyle. He did drugs, lived like a rock star, and the nicest way to describe him would be a playboy. He'd walk around in his underwear all day while I sat in his home office trying to do my job. I was buried in his messy finances, trying to make sense of everything. When he suddenly walked over and shut down the computer, he wedged himself between the chair and my desk, leaned into my face and shouted, Boring! Why are you working so hard? Come have a drink with me. It doesn't have to be all work, Maha. You're so serious. I pushed back in my chair, startled, but kept my composure. Inside, I felt so uncomfortable. When he once overheard me mention another guy I was dating, he got so jealous. 2 weeks later, he flew his mother from London just to meet me. Not long after, he asked me to come see his yacht. I told him I get really bad motion sickness and didn't want to go. One afternoon, he said casually, "I forgot something on the boat. Come with me. It'll only take a minute." I went along, and once we got there, he said, "Why don't you hop on? I'll show you around." I stepped on the yacht, and before I knew it, he was steering us into the open water. His mother was already on board. He saw how uncomfortable I was and tried to smooth it over. "You can invite your friends," he said. So we docked back in Marina del Rey, and both Dan and Shiva came on board. Shiva, my friend from grad school, was visiting me for the weekend. We ended up having a good time, but it was Shiva who later pulled me aside and whispered, "Maha, did you hear what he told his mom? He called you his future wife." On the boat, we had wine and cheese, and he was talking about shooting a video with Dr. Dre the next day and that I should come. I had no idea who Dr. Dre even was and said flatly, "I don't work on Sundays. That's my day off." Dan's head exploded when he heard us. "Are you serious, Maha? You don't want to go watch a Dr. Dre video being filmed? Can I go instead? I'll be your assistant." He looked at the director. "I'm serious." But I had no interest in feeding the director's ego or giving him another inch of power over me. This role that I hated landed me on sets with Jennifer Lopez, Florence and the Machine, and Lil Jon. But behind the scenes, it was chaos, jealousy, and a man who couldn't separate his fantasies from reality. "Can you go outside? Check. I think there is somebody at the door," the director called out one day. I got up from the desk in his home office and walked outside, only to see a black Mercedes with a giant red bow on top. Then I looked over my shoulder and saw the director standing there with a massive video camera. Not a phone camera. I'm talking the real director's rig, filming my reaction. "Surprise!" he shouted, smiling. The dealer walked up and handed me the keys and said, "Congratulations on your brand new Mercedes." My jaw dropped. "What?" was all I could manage to say. The director kept filming. "Maha, come on, you can't keep driving that beat-up Toyota Yaris while you work with me. My housekeeper has a better car." "You want to take it for a ride?" the dealer asked. "Around the block." Before I could say anything, the director nudged me forward. "Sure, I guess," I said in complete shock. I slid into the driver's seat, and it was just me and the dealer taking it around the block. He pointed out the features, how smooth it drove, everything automated, even linking the Bluetooth to my iPhone. I blurred out, "I don't think I can accept this car. What does he want from me in return?" The dealer gave me a knowing look. "I got you. I see what you're saying." But he was so happy when he came to the dealership. He spoke so highly of you. He was excited to gift you this car. Just accept it. He wants to do it. You didn't make him. It makes him happy. You have nothing to lose. I smiled. It was a fancy car. Who can say no to that? So I drove the car home. The director wanted me to sell my Yaris, but I refused. I wanted to keep it. Something in my gut told me this wouldn't last. The director, my boss, was obsessed with Bikram, as in Bikram Yoga, and had been taking his yoga classes for years. It was 2012 before any of the criminal charges against Bikram had came out. The director wanted to pay homage to him by creating a documentary about the life of the famous, now infamous, yoga teacher. He asked me to go with him to meet Bikram one day. Bikram was hosting one of his massive yoga events at the LAX Radisson Hotel. We walked into the hotel lobby and asked for his suite number. Before heading upstairs, the director looked at me and said, "Do you want to go check the yoga event first?" We pushed open the wide double doors of the mirrored ballroom, and immediately the heavy wave of heat hit me, 105 degrees Fahrenheit with 40% humidity. The ballroom was completely cleared out, no furniture, just wall-to-wall carpet. It was silent, empty for now. The event wouldn't start for a few hours. We took the elevator and walked to the presidential suite. There were at least 15 people inside. I wasn't sure if it was his extended Indian family or more of an entourage situation. It was mostly men with just a couple of women. Bikram was seated cross-legged, half lotus, on top of an elevated chair, while his supporters sat in a circle on the floor beneath him. We were escorted into the circle where the director walked up to Bikram and kissed his hand. Then it was my turn to greet the almighty yogi. I reached out, shook his hand, and smiled. He placed his other hand on top of my hand and rubbed his middle finger in the center of my palm. My whole body cringed. My mind went into shock. It happened so fast. I felt confused trying to process what had just happened. My first thought was, maybe it was an accident. I don't think it's what I think it is, or was it? I sat down quietly at the edge of the circle with everyone else. Out of nowhere, Bikram removed his watch and announced loudly, "This Rolex is worth $65,000. It is filled with diamonds and rubies." Everyone gasped, wide-eyed with awe. As the watch passed from one hand to another around the circle, when it reached me, I didn't even glance at it. I just passed it along. The director then opened his laptop on his knees. He began his pitch, showing Bikram the trailer he and his team had made for the documentary. They had worked on it for such a long time, and the director had funded the entire project with his own money. Bikram watched silently. When the trailer ended, the room froze in heavy silence. Then, without warning, Bikram grabbed the laptop and threw it violently to the floor. "This is garbage," he screamed, voice booming. "Do you hear me? Garbage! What am I supposed to do with this?" The handsome and celebrated 6'3" Hollywood director, who was in his 40s, began to whimper like a little child, on his knees. "I'm sorry, Bikram. I promise. I can do better. Just give me another chance. I beg you. I'll make it up to you." Bikram kept shouting, refusing to calm down. The director's eyes turned towards me, desperate, wet with tears. I looked back at him, stood up, picked up the laptop, and grabbed his hands. "Let's get the fuck out of here." Still whimpering, he stumbled, "But, Maha, Now," I said, yanking him to his feet. The drive back to the director's house was quiet. When we walked into his home office, I sat down to finish my work. But he wanted to open a bottle of wine. "Should we have a drink?" He looked at me. "It's been an awful day." I stood up, slammed my hand on my desk, so sick of men trying to buy me with their money my entire life. I silently placed the Mercedes key on the desk, right next to the work cell phone. Without a word, I started walking toward the door. "What's happening? Are you leaving? Are you quitting?" he called after me. I didn't even turn around. I just waved my hand and said yes, goodbye. My Toyota Yaris was still parked outside his house, the keys safe in my purse. I got in and drove myself back home. In yoga circles, there is this story often told. A mighty king once went to see a little monk. His voice was sharp, used to instant obedience. "Monk, teach me about heaven and hell." The monk looked up at the king and sneered, "Teach you? You are arrogant, foolish, and unworthy. You are a disgrace to your own crown. Get out of my sight." The king's face turned red. His whole body shook with rage. He drew his sword, ready to strike the monk down. The monk looked straight into his eyes and said softly, "Now this is hell." The king froze. In that instant, he realized the monk had risked his life just to show him the truth. His anger melted into awe and gratitude. He dropped his sword, fell into his knees, and bowed. The monk smiled and said gently, "And this is heaven." Bikram was living in hell, and the director was living in hell too. Playing the power dynamics game is a living nightmare that leads to nowhere. Power over others is weakness disguised as strength. True power is within and is available to you now. Eckhart Tolle, The Power of Now. It does not matter how much money you have, where you rank amongst your peers, where you come from, how good looking you are, how popular you are. If you don't believe you are worthy and enough from the inside, you will always seek validations from others and give your power away. Authentic power is when your personality is in alignment with the purpose of your soul. Your personality is serving the purpose of your soul. No one can take that away from you. There is nothing more vital to your life than living an authentically empowered life. That's what you were born to create, and only you can do that. That's the real work you need to do within yourself. Gary Zukav. Once you have complete trust in yourself, the opinion of others can be seen without a threat. Don't give your power away. I got a call from the director about 2 years later. "Maha, how are you, sweetheart? I just never thanked you for all the hard work you did for me. Remember that festival I was trying to develop at Catalina Island? It got approved, thanks to you." I sat quietly on the phone, wondering about this strange call all these years later. "Maha, I need your help. I'm being sued for sexual harassment. You know me, I don't like drama, and I'm such an easy-going, down-to-earth guy. I don't know why these things keep happening to me." His tone was desperate, searching for pity. I couldn't believe his audacity. He came to me, asking me to be a witness on his side after everything he had put me through, walking around in his underwear in my office, almost kidnapping me on his yacht, grabbing me, hugging me, knowing very well that every inch in my body was pushing him away. I wanted to scream into the phone, "How dare you?" But I didn't say anything, of course, and hung up. He knew, and he never called me again. This was an excerpt from my upcoming memoir. Stay tuned for more. By the way, my memoir is complete and has been sitting on my laptop for months now. So if you know a publisher or can slip it to Oprah or Reese Witherspoon's book club, I'll owe you free yoga classes for life. Please subscribe for free to receive the next chapter.